Welcome back to Still You, the podcast where we explore the Enneagram so deeply you might just start diagnosing your bartender. I know I have. True story. I'm your host, Katelynn, equal parts therapy nerd, hype woman, and someone who's helping you learn to say no without spiraling into guilt. Does that sound familiar to any of you? Because today's episode is for all the lovers, the listeners, the lunch makers. That's right. We're talking about our type twos. They are the human version of a warm weighted blanket, and they're comforting and sometimes smothering if you're not careful, just like a weighted blanket. So if you've ever made a lasagna for your neighbor you barely know, or spent 3 hours giving someone just a little advice, or casually adopted someone else's emotions as your own, you just might be a type 2. So buckle up, buttercups. Let's dive in. All right. So, who are our type 2s? What exactly powers these sweet and spicy souls that we love so much? I do have a soft spot disclaimer for type 2s. I'll explain later on in the episode, but I'm not trying to be biased. I'm only human, but we all have soft spots, so give me a break. Anyway, the type 2s are affectionately known as the helpers of the Enneagram, the caring interpersonal type who is generous, demonstrative, people-pleasing, and possessive. Type 2s are warm people focused. Gosh, stumbling over my words. And they're driven by this deep, deep, deep desire to be loved and needed. They have that sixth sense for who needs that hug, that casserole, or you might be overdue for a girls' night. They know about it because they are generous and, again, emotionally intuitive, and also, like I touched on, a little bit teeny weeny tiny bit possessive, but put a pin on that. Their core motivations, if you were to put it into a sentence, would be if I help enough people, surely I'll be loved and returned. Duh. Because their basic desire is to feel loved. And there's another disclaimer right here because everyone has that. So don't get confused and take it as like black and white, because everyone has that desire to be loved and needed, especially, by our parents, for example. But for a type 2, it's their core motivation. It's why they do what they do in their every single day life. It's their driving force. So does that make sense? We need to remember those kinds of things for every single time. But yeah, their core motivation is to be needed and wanted and loved. And that sounds really noble and, like, honestly so cute and innocent. It's like that puppy you're staring at the dog pound, or that Hallmark movie that you love but also hate. But let's be real. It's also the emotional foundation of that one friend who gets quietly furious when no one notices that they were up all night making those party favors for your birthday. Like, oh man, is that you? Well, it's okay. We've all been there. We've all wanted that little love and appreciation or that pat on the back. That's a very human thing, okay? But twos have what I like to call that, quote, emotional LASIK. They can see right into your needs even before you've admitted them to yourself. They spot them like snipers, like on that rooftop, man, miles and miles away. They just know it. They've brewed that tea. They've pulled up that Brene Brown quote and dimmed the lights. But here's a twist. Their own needs are often buried under layers and layers of blankets, a pile of obligations, and at least one passive aggressive text. Sorry if that hurt a little bit. But because you guessed it, their basic fear is being unloved and unwanted. We'll get into that. But at their best, they are radiant beams of warmth, compassionate, intuitive, and like impossibly generous. They are either the most genuinely helpful to other people, or when they're less healthy, they're more highly invested in seeing themselves as helpful. Yeah, we're getting somewhere. And so they believe that their helpful nature, or going out of their way for others and denying themselves and their own needs, is the best and most meaningful way to live, which Give me a break. They are the emotional glue in our communities or our family, and they're the friend who actually remembers your dog's birthday before you do. And of course, we do need more selflessness and thoughtfulness in this world, which is why we love our twos and we all have a soft spot for them. Let's be honest. And when they're healthy and in balance, they truly are loving and helpful and genuinely considerate. And people are drawn to them like bees to honey. I have this friend who, I don't think she's ever been typed before, but it's so freaking obvious that she's a type two because she still sends birthday cards in the mail and like thank you cards. We went to her 40th birthday the other week and we all went. I don't even think I brought a present. We just went to this bar that they rented out and had some cake, drinks, fun, whatever. Next week, I get a birthday card in the mail. Like, who does that still? Like, it just makes you feel like a piece of shit because you're like, God, I need to be doing this. Like, it's just so thoughtful, and I need to be more thoughtful. Like, God, and like that, there's that guilt, which we'll get into because that is a type two trait in more in their unhealth. But anyway. So our type twos, they enliven those around them with the way that they appreciate them. Like with those birthday cards that I get in the mail, like, God, my heart just exploded. But then it gives you that soft, fuzzy feeling in my soul. And type twos just love and appreciate in ways that people didn't even know could exist. And they truly represent, the good parent that everyone imagines or like maybe even wishes that they had had. So type twos, like they really truly show us the way to be more open and vulnerable and deeply, richly human. Oh, which is just, how can you not love that? But yeah, I said but. I'm sorry. There's always a but. Like all types, they have a shadow. And baby, we'll get there. Don't worry. But quick synopsis of what's to come so you can emotionally prepare yourself. Type 2 struggle with pride, denial, and an unconscious habit of becoming way too involved in other people's business, but lovingly, of course. Doesn't remind you of anybody, but they are the manipulators to get their own emotional needs met because type 2s see themselves as helpful, and they see themselves as selfless, exploring their darker sides is really contradictory to their ego. So it can be incredibly difficult for them to open up those doors and like get help and help themselves, all of that. Yeah, we'll be getting into that. So with the type 2s, we have entered the heart triad. So if you don't know what I'm talking about when I say triads, go back and listen. Go back like 2 episodes. It's not that hard. I break it down talking about what triads are, just so you can follow along and know what I'm talking about. But types 2s, 3s, and 4s are in our heart triad. And all of these types have this immense fear of worthlessness in their own specific, unique ways. They all wrestle with that shame and that fear. But the type 2s mask their insecurities with relentless helpfulness. And they often believe that if they stop giving, the love will stop flowing. Cue the panic. And that panic has them disintegrating into their unhealthier levels, right? So the ego of the type 2 says, if you put others first, if you be selfless, be helpful and generous, whatever possible, because as we know, they believe that is the way in which they receive and are worthy of love. But when a 2 breaks through that illusion and connects with their authentic self, real, beautiful magic happens. So let's talk about what that looks like, because talking about the sugar-coated, not even sugar-coated, just talking about the good stuff is always nice. It's like, what do you want first, the good news or the bad news? Honestly, I don't know. I think I'd rather take the good news first. Or, gosh, I don't know. But here we are. I've chosen for you. So we're going to go into the light side of our type 2s. We're going to bask in the beautiful glow of the type 2 like a kitty cat in that afternoon sun, because when they are healthy, oh honey, do they shine. Yes. So type 2. I'm about to say the word 3. Type 2s have 3 main superpowers. You ready for this? Because it's great. But also because they're not my superpowers, I'm like, how do they do this? Like, this is crazy. This is natural for them. So one, love languages galore. Twos are absolutely fluent in all of the love languages. Acts of service, check. Words of affirmation, check. They'll write you out a sonnet. Physical touch, you're getting a hug whether you like it or not. If emotional fluency was a sport, like they'd literally have gold. Their second superpower is like loyalty. Man, your ride or die friends, they are the people who show up with snacks, tissues, a plan. You lost your job, they've already sent your resume to 3 contacts that they know of, ordered your favorite takeout, and they're just those like built-in emotional paramedics. Like and the last one, they're your verbal hype machines. Twos are those walking voice memos of, you got this. Need a pep talk before a big meeting? They will verbally carry you across the finish line like the emotional Olympians that they are. Yes, amen. Snaps. Snaps for our twos. So in our Enneagram chart, in growth in the top levels of the healthy two, their arrow goes to a type 4. So if you remember that little diagram that looks like a bad thing, the type, every type has the 2 arrows, right? Which points to a different number. Type 2 goes to type 4 and type 8, that's in a minute. But first, let's talk about the type 4 when they are in healthy and in growth, and they're really truly finding their essence and their authentic self. So when a type 2 really starts doing their work, like therapy, journaling, or a little bit of crying at Trader Joe's to the cash register, you know those guys, they come from a place of overflow and not obligation. Okay. They begin to ask themselves some revolutionary questions like, do I want to do this? Okay. Or am I abandoning myself right now? Or they ask themselves, is this my problem? Okay. So they begin to show up for themselves first without guilt at all. And when they remain healthy by learning to recognize and accept all of their feelings without censoring them, like a healthy type 4. So twos in growth, they don't stop caring. They'll still show up with the lasagna if you're sick or something, but they just stop bleeding themselves dry. They set boundaries. They protect their energy and they stop overfunctioning and start feeling, which is kind of ironic. Being the big feelers, it's more about other people that they feel for versus their own. So they have, like I just said, a heightened sensitivity to people's emotions. And like a type 4, they have these like this antenna, the super sensitive antenna, picking up all of the changes, the ups and downs of the emotions of the room and the people in it, all of that. But when they learn to do this with their own emotions, this is where they emerge into the healthier levels of themselves and find their true essence. And a healthy 2 gives without agenda. They serve from overflow, not obligation. And it's really, really stunning to see that. And like I said earlier, this is where I have a soft spot for the type 2 because as a type 8 myself, 2s represent my healthy levels. Stay tuned for the type 8 episode, which, yeah. So they represent my healthy levels connecting, which is basically represents my inner child whose innocence was once robbed in one way or another. So let's be honest, I would die for a type 2. I would. I'm sorry. But moving on, the healthy 2s know how to maintain good boundaries. So they can continue to be generous and loving and the helpful friend or spouse that they naturally are. They are in tune with their energy levels and they have a clear sense of their own motivations as well. Are they wanting to say yes to pet sitting for a week because of the brownie points and appreciation they'll get in return? Or do they say yes without expectations because their confidence and self-esteem is no longer tied to what they get in return from others? That's a good question. They are able to distinguish their own needs from the needs of others and maintain that healthy balance of the two. They also gain access to their own creativity. Think like dancing, poetry, painting, really cute kittens or whatever just gives voice to their emotions. And they stop trying to be everything for everything and start becoming everything for themselves. Yes, I said that. And the healthy two, they stay in tune with their emotions and are not as easily swayed by the positive or the negative responses from others. So, for example, if you're type 2, if you walk into work and you greet your coworker in the morning and they reciprocated but really didn't give eye contact or their tone sounded a little off, the type 2, they're not going to spiral into emotional despair, wondering if that coworker is mad at them and now they should buy them lunch just in case. They have enough self-esteem and self-nurturance not to take the reactions of others personally or as a referendum on their own value. Um but when the type 2, actually, you know what? Let me go and talk a little bit more about like the integration to type 4 and what that looks like. Because, like I mentioned, healthy twos are attuned to their own emotions, feelings, and then the needs of others around them. But that does not mean that they need to act on them. So let's say the type 2 finds themselves frustrated with or angry with their boyfriend and instead of exploding and impulsively breaking up with them, they know how to self-acknowledge these feelings. They self-nurture, right? And express what's going on inside of them to their partner in a healthy way, of course. But whenever they attempt to do anything or something for themselves, guess who enters the picture? We've touched on her a little bit, but that's her super ego, also known around here. We're calling her Chloe. If you didn't listen to last week's episode, we gave a name to the type one's super ego or their inner critic, Wanda. I think this is kind of fun. So for the type 2, their inner critic, their ego, for the type 2 is going to be Chloe, because I was watching The Secret Life of Pets as I was writing out this episode. And I thought like her cat character was a perfect example of the voice inside of the type 2's head, telling them how selfish they are for signing up for the art class or scheduling their workouts because that leaves them less time with the kids, or my husband will have to start dinner or whatever. Chloe's mean. She's judgmental. And twos think it's their guiding star to achieve their basic desires, which, what is it? What you get? It's to be loved. But Chloe is really and severely misguiding our gorgeous twos, because every light casts a shadow. Yes, we've gotten there, which is our awful segue into the shadows of our type twos. So we're taking this scenic detour into the shadow. Let's take a deep breath and grab a blanket. Take your foot off the gas pedal because you're probably going over the speed limit. But it's time to meet your shadow. And I, of course, need to give our disclaimer first. This is the time to give yourself grace, to sit back, listen with curiosity and not judgment or denial. Okay? The more we deny, the less we grow. Ooh, amen, Katelynn. But because the reason you are here is to be a better human, to create a better world for ourselves. But we can't do that without walking through some mud first, girlfriend. Your mud may not be as deep now or has ever been, okay? Um, Sorry, I drew a blank. But as I was saying, your mud may not be as deep now or has ever been, but you will be able to relate to it. Okay. When I read the ultra super awful, mega unhealthy things of my type, they are behaviors that I have never, ever had or ever felt. But had I had different parents or a belief system or a different childhood, I could easily see myself in my life being completely different in how those traits would be showing up differently in my life. Does that make sense? So if you're hearing, you're like, that's not me. Oh my God. Like it's okay. like, so let's sit back and don't take these traits automatically as you are a piece of shit. You're not. Okay. So here's the thing. Okay. Twos don't just help out of pure altruism. Sometimes the helpfulness is a little like some emotionally tax deductible. When a two forgets to check in with themselves, they begin to spiral, like we talked about. Their gifts become tools for manipulation, and their giving becomes a currency. So, what is the opposite of a superpower? I really don't know a good name for it, like kryptonite, anti powers, and whatever. Let me know what a good word is for that. But there's three anti-powers that the type 2 has. They're three big shadow parts. First one is hidden strings attached. So twos might give endlessly and then be shocked when others don't offer that same devotion in return, because that dinner wasn't just a dinner. It was a love test, and guess what? You failed. And the second one is martyrdom Olympics. Sorry. Martyrdom Olympics. They'll say yes to everything, burn themselves out, and then like act surprised when no one's checking in on them, because plot twist, they never told anyone they were exhausted. They melt down because no one's helping, which just blows my mind because I'm such a vocal person. Like, I don't care. And to me, like, if I were to see this happening in real life, I'd be like, just say something. Just say that you need help. And they're like, oh, I would rather die. But the third one for our beautiful type twos is the identity meltdown. Twos can forget who they are outside of being helpful. And if they're not needed, like, who even the fuck are they? Oh, yeah. So here's the other twist. There's a lot of twists here. Under stress, twos don't just get sad, they get intense. That arrow of disintegration sends them towards the type 8, which we'll figure out later is called the challenger. And that's me. And why I have this podcast, right? I like to challenge people. But when when a stress hits, when stress, not a stress, but when stress hits, twos don't just break down. They transform like Cinderella in like reverse. Under pressure, they move toward that unhealthy 8 space, becoming controlling, aggressive, and suddenly yelling about that casserole dish you never return. But let's calm down for a second because I got to defend for myself. I got to fend for myself. I know I'm a type 8, but that doesn't mean all type 2s need to go all avoiding all the type 8s because of some perceived bad influence. Some of my greatest friendships are with type 2s. And as two healthy individuals that we are, that friendship is truly deeply fulfilling. Unhealthy 2s may experience a type 8 as someone who is stressful to be around, which makes sense. But knowing these parts of you is extremely important in navigating the ebbs and flows of your life. Like, so going through a divorce or a death of a parent, because of your self growth journey, you're becoming so much more aware of your behavior. So when you begin to dip into stress during those times like that, or unhealthy levels of the 8, it's kind of like your red flag to yourself to check in. Do some self care. Tell Chloe to shut the F up because she ain't the boss. And that assertiveness of the type 2 really can have and be reclaimed for growth, which is never to be avoided, right? So when they're aware, they use that fiery 8 energy to finally advocate for themselves. So it's not that you have to always avoid behaviors that represent something awful. It can, but there's also a light side. Even if you're under stressful times in your life, you can still do it in a healthy, positive way, okay? Because we can't avoid the outside forces. But that was like my 8th disclaimer. But the move to the unhealthy levels of the 8, our super sweet, soft helper is stomping around, reclaiming that casserole dish, and demanding their emotional debts be paid. Sorry if you hear that siren. I don't know if you can. I got a new mic. This is the loudest street on the planet. Yeah, so the type 2 is going around demanding their emotional debts be paid, and Chloe becomes that spicy lawyer yelling in the courtroom, exhibit A, in their mind. Like, the unhealthy 2 will quickly confront that coworker who didn't give him eye contact when saying good morning. because it's polite and you're extremely rude. Like Chloe comes out full force. Goddamn, they express their frustrations with not getting enough appreciation or acknowledgement from those that they have helped. In these stressful states, the two goes into survival mode because their basic desire is not being reinforced, right? That would make anybody panic. So they become more argumentative, forceful, vocal about what they need and what they need others to think of them. For example, they may say something like, I really hope you're aware of how important I am in your life. Yeah. What I imagine with that kind of line is this is awful. But what I imagine with that line is that toxic mom like yelling this to her own child. Awful, awful. But I think if you have a mom like that, I am really sorry. But this might help you heal. I really hope so. But this state of severe stress has the two veering into really good manipulation tactics. It's the guilt trips, people pleasing, and they surround themselves with emotionally needy people so they can stay central. It's not love, it's control dressed in affection. Very smart of them. It's one way. And they start to see everyone around them as needy, hungry, orphan children who are just starved of love and attention. And they begin to press that onto others, whether or not they asked for it, right? It's overly helpful. They might resort to like lots of gossip. They're the big gossipers, I think, of the Enneagram. The unhealthy ones, okay? Relax. But it's their way of letting people know how many friends they have and how close they are to them. And the conversations that they have between friends is about how much the type two can pry out of that person and to know those more intimate details of like their sex life or what they're talking about in therapy. It's all one-sided. And so the type two is not revealing their struggles or problems or whatnot because again, they don't have any. Everything's great. I'm here to help everyone. I don't little robots. So, yeah, Chloe was like, nope, you're here to help others and fix their problems. That's why we're on this planet, of course. So, as we go and dive deeper into the really, 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 really unhealthy levels of the type 2, and with any type, it takes chronic abuse or a major, major catastrophic event for them to get into these very deep levels of unhealth. The type 2 in this state is notoriously hard to help because they can just easily justify their actions in the name of helping others, dear, or just doing something good, right? And they can't express how they actually feel. They want to manipulate others to give them the kind of loving response that they desperately want. But the irony is when those responses just aren't good enough, even if they can get it out of someone. So yeah, manipulation is the name of the game here for extremely unhealthy twos. They becoming like severely codependent. They're too neurotic to recognize love, like let alone like give or receive it. They are the maestros of guilt. But while doing all of this, they're still presenting themselves as helpers who can heal the pain that they are the ones who actually caused. And these behaviors, we have to remember, they come from pain, not malice. And when a two feels invisible or unloved, they panic, right? And they try to fix it the only way they know how, which can we guess what that is? By doing more. Good job. A plus, A plus. So the real healing begins when they start to do less, when they get still, and when they finally hear their own voice. Okay, so let's take another deep breath. Good job, babe. You got through it. But let that soak in, honestly. If any of that resonated with you or you just want to uncover more, you can actually schedule a one-on-one coaching call with me so we can talk about what this looks like for you and in your life specifically. Even if you're not a type 2 or need to discover your type, we'll do it all. I do it all. But the link is in the show notes, but you'll like have to copy and paste it into your browser because ghetto. Or it's just they don't let me do clickable links, there has to be a way. I'll figure it out. But let's move on to the wings. Again, we're going to talk about this into another episode because, again, there's so many dynamics here. But yeah, let's talk about the two of the type wing. Nope. Let's talk about the twos wings, not the buffalo kind, but a snack sounds great. Actually, that's literally what I had for lunch. But this is the Enneagram kind of wings, okay? They have type twos have two major flavor profiles. Get it? See what I did there? Again, these numbers are only on either side of your numbers. So in this case, you're either a two wing one or a two wing three. So let's touch on it briefly because we'll just have to wait for another time. So sorry about that siren. I hope whoever they're going toward is okay. I always think that when a siren goes by, I'm like, it's really annoying, but I really hope and pray that that person will be okay. Anyway, the two wing one is what they call the servant, and I gave a nickname vibe to these wings. So the two wing one, the nickname vibe is Mother Teresa with a clipboard. And so obviously their wing influence is the type one, which we talked about last week. So go and listen to that, which is called the reformer. Their core traits, the two wing one core traits is dutiful, morally driven, altruistic with really high standards. They're disciplined. They feel responsible for others' well-being. I kicked my cat. Not that hard. Relax. But the two wing one gives help, quote, the right way and expects the same. They want to be good and helpful for the right reasons. And they also can be more reserved, serious than the other wing. I'm going to bring up Leslie Knope again. I know I talked about her last week, being a type one, but also she's a fictional character, so she's not going to have like an actual type. But I really feel like her character is either a type one wing two, or two wing one, because she has super high standards, all this stuff, but she'll go out of her way to do the right thing, but also like she'll go out of her way to help anyone at any time. Like, it's just so funny. I actually have it on pause right now. But if you haven't watched that show, Leslie Knope is like the perfect example of the two and the one merged together. And it's just so funny. If you're a type one or a type two, do you actually relate to her character? Like, I have to know. Please comment. Anyway, the two wing three is what we call the host or hostess, depending on your gender. The nickname vibe is, I love this, the Pinterest board that came to life. Like, what? And obviously, their wing influence is the type three, which they call the achiever, and which we'll be talking about next week. But their core traits are outgoing, charming, ambitious. They seek admiration and success through being helpful. That will make a difference next week when we learn about the three. But the two wing three, they want to be seen as valuable and desirable. They can be status and like conscious driven and really highly image aware. And they can be very polished in presentation and really good people skills. You'll learn that next week. Type threes are like the people skills masters of the Enneagram. But knowing your wing can help clarify your vibe. Are you behind the scenes caregiver or the sparkling hostess running on compliments and coffee? Drop a comment wherever you are if you can. I'm super curious. But moving on, because I'm the challenger and we're here to actually grow, we have some journal prompts, some reflections, things for you guys to think about this. It's time to take action. We're not here to just sit and listen and move on, right? We're here to evolve, and that's why I'm here. So, whether you're driving or listening at work, give like a mental or literal physical response to these journal prompts. Okay. So, one, what is one thing I truly want that I've been afraid to ask for? Mm-hmm. Two, what relationship feels one sided and how have I contributed to that dynamic? Three, when was the last time I said yes, but really meant, please, God, no? And four, what does love feel like when I'm not doing, keyword, when I'm not doing anything? If you're not into journaling, I really encourage it. Even if it's for a short period of time, it might help you give that little extra push, that little extra boost to go into the right direction of growth. Because when we talked about that light side, girl, everyone wants to be like that. I mean, I love all the light sides of every single type here. But I mean, come on, do it. All right. Here are some extra action steps, practices, and things to remember to really help you develop. And I got a couple of these from my favorite book, The Wisdom of the Enneagram, if you want to check that out. So, first one, don't be so concerned. I know, right? Easier said than done. Don't be so concerned about what others think of you, and be particularly aware of trying to win over everyone. As you probably know, like logically, no matter what you do, you will almost always end up displeasing someone. It's a part of life. So it's not impossible. It's not possible for everyone to like you or be your friend all of the time. It's more important for you to think carefully about doing the best that you can for someone now and just let it go at that. Making peace of this will be tremendously helpful because it's just a fact. And even though like I'm not a type 2, I have felt in certain situations where I really wanted to be someone's friend because of whatever reasons, but they just didn't want to be. And yeah, I really feel that it's a hit to the ego for sure. And it's really hard not to take personally, but it's just a fact of life and you just let it go and move on. I know, easier said than done. All right, the other one is to learn to recognize the affection and good wishes of others, even when they are not in the terms that you're familiar with or the way that you may have expected it in return. So, others may not be expressing their feelings in a way that you want. They may be letting you know in other ways how much they care about you, which, come on. And so, most people aren't as effusive in their feelings as you, and most are not as naturally inclined to give attention to others. But if you can recognize what others are giving you, you will rest more easily in the knowledge that you are loved and that you will not feel as frustrated with others if you just learn to recognize the other love languages of others, even though you might have all of them. Lastly, it is vitally important for you to develop good boundaries. I know that's why you need some type 8s in your life. Type 8s are the queens and kings of boundary setting. So they might be your arrow to stress, but they can still be a good influence, the healthy ones at least, like me. Boundaries for our type 2s will allow you to feel for others without becoming entangled into their problems, right? That's so Leslie Knope. I'm sorry I'm bringing her up so much, but she just almost every episode, she's getting overly involved. It's like when she was getting um Ron and Tammy back together, she's like, you guys just need to talk it out and blah blah blah. They're like, Leslie, do you know what you just did? Like, and she's like, no, you're welcome. And it turned out to be a disaster. Like, perfect example. But all right, let's get back on track. But to support this, learn how to sit in your own skin. When others are troubled or need something from you, this does not mean that you should withhold affection or help, but it does mean that you need to stay connected to yourself at the times in which you are most likely to abandon your own interests and in the pursuit of that approval. If you can respect your own boundaries, saying no when you need to, you're also much less likely to cross others' boundaries as well. This will make for happier, healthier relationships all around you. So, in summary, practice saying no without justifying it. Just no. Period. Zilch. Schedule solo time where you do nothing, in all caps, nothing for anyone else. And notice when Miss Chloe, your judgmental kitty guilt monster, starts chitter chattering. She goes meow meow meow. Thank her for her input. Thank you. You're a really cute cat, but just you got to ignore her. It's the cat's way. All right. All right, my little cutie little buttercups, your big heart is an actual gift, but you are not just what you give. You are you, still you, even when you are resting. You do not have to earn love. It's not a coupon. It's your birthright. Okay. So thanks for tuning in today. That is the episode. This is the podcast where we dive deep, babes, into the Enneagram. We laugh a little, we cry a little, and remind you that you are enough. Okay. Send this to your favorite little helper. Leave us a review. And remember, the world needs you, but not at the cost of you. Until next time, be kind, curious, and take a nap. Peace.